Your pickleball partners, Chiron?
Finding them, luckily, well, so far, most of my partners I've known personally. I've only ever played one true blind date where I didn't know the person, and that was actually set up through Jesse, through one of my friends who knew the owner of the BLQK Bears, and they talked, and that's how we ended up playing. He was just coming into town, and it just worked out, and his name was Jonathan Trong. He's who I played actually the most recent PPA with.
The one on YouTube, that's PPA? Oh, cool.
Yeah. Incredible player.
It was so cool seeing you on the PPA channel, Chiron. That was a big moment for me.
Yeah, that was the first TV game. I like it. My partner, he was amazing, so that worked out. Maybe I'll do that more often in the future.
I would imagine that.
Yeah, so that worked out. That's really the only time I've done it. What I've found and what I've seen, at least for me, I prefer generally to play with people I know, just so I can kind of match up my styles with them. I'm lucky enough, for mixed at least, I've played with 2 different girls, both live out here in the desert, or 3 different girls actually, and all 3 live out here in the desert. All 3 are just phenomenal players.
Yeah,
so
lucky there.
I didn't have to go far for it.
Yeah, it helps being familiar. It's kind of intimidating not being familiar, but if you guys are both rock stars and the chemistry's right, I see how it could work on a blind date. It seemed that way watching your video.
Yeah, and I'd say my recommendation for people who are asking to look for partners, I think really the best way to look is, one, you look for people who you've either played in tournament or you've watched play in tournament.
Some type of background.
In fact, that's how I met one of my older partners, Anders, also phenomenal player. We played against him a couple times in tournaments, and then he asked me, and then we played together. We did well, and he asked because we saw each other's styles, we liked how each other played, and so we were able to play together like that, and so it worked out pretty well. And I think one of the things you can do, which is really no risk, is just always look at their Instagram and just send them a DM, ask them if they'd be interested in playing or something like that. Worst case scenario, they just say, no, they're not interested, so be it.
Yeah, kind of like sales, just creating leads.
Exactly.
And more opportunity. Makes sense.
And one of the greatest pieces of advice I ever got from Colin Johns is pick a great partner. And so really, I think pickleball is so partner dependent. And I've been pretty lucky with getting pretty amazing partners. So that's hopefully cool. I can keep that streak going.
His brother's his partner. That's cool he said that. Yeah, and having a good teammate is so important. Just there's a lot more than just the skill. I mean, there's a skill set in just being a good teammate, having a good personality on the court, and really connecting with them. But I'm glad to hear that the blind date system worked for you, because you're a valuable player. You should have a lot of options, Chiron. And you're an excellent pickleball partner. I like being on your team.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Main goal. Get 1 win in the main draw PPA. Have you done that?
I have done that.
Wow, okay. So we'll scratch that one off the list.
Yeah,
What's your next goal? What's your new main goal?
My new main goal, I guess, probably my new main goal, I haven't thought about it much. Well, firstly, it would be to get 2 wins in the PPA.
Yeah, I mean, that's another huge.
Yeah, for me at least, I'd say right now, I have different goals. For mixed, the goal is to win a game in the main draw of mixed. I won my main draw in men's, which was pretty good. I, again, played with an incredible partner, Jake, but I think mixed, I haven't done as good. I used to be a lot better at mixed than I am at men's, and now I think it's kind of pivoted the other way.
Interesting, yeah. You're always very intimidating mixed player.
Yeah, and so I think my goal is to make the main draw and win a game in mixed, and my goal would actually be, I think my goal is to, really the high lofty goal is just to place anywhere where you get paid, whether APP or PPA, just make some kind of prize money. Could be $100, could be less than the entry fee, but that's really what I would say is the goal now. This is the next big overarching goal at least. And that's I think quarterfinals for PPA or top 9 for APP.
That's when you make some money?
Yeah, that's when you get, it's usually not much, but it's just, that's the goal. It's something to strive for.
Basically, it's just a little bit higher than this 1 win. You want to get a little bit higher up there, earn some money, and feel like you earned your paycheck.
Exactly. Yeah. One step at a time.
Okay. Yeah, well, good job getting to your main goal already. It wasn't too long ago we talked last. So how do you find players better than you?
So
it's probably getting pretty hard nowadays.
Yeah, so I'm in the desert. There's just not many young people, so it's pretty hard to find good enough, like stronger players than me to play against and to train to get better. And really, in order to get better, you need to play against people better than you. And so for me, it's going to be a lot of driving out to LA, driving out to Los Cab, or eventually maybe even moving somewhere like Austin, South Florida, where there is a much stronger player base. Now, I'm lucky enough in the desert. There are a few really good players who I get to play with. Jill, I'm so lucky that I met her and I get to play with her all the time.
Yeah.
She's who I train with the most, and she's the best training partner I've had. And so she's a big part of why I've gotten so much better. And especially, the big thing is I need to also do that with other people, because obviously she has her own life. She has tournaments to go to. She has to travel. She's playing full time on the tour. And so
if you had like 20 of those type of opportunities.
Yeah, and so if I
go to the hub is how you do that. Yeah.
And a lot of it is going to find other people, find
What about
other
like San
styles.
Diego? You can drive like 2 hours away, right?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. And you're absolutely right. I need to start making, and I haven't been doing it as much, and especially during the summer when I'm not as busy teaching, I'm going to make the drive more, drive to San Diego, drive out to LA, to Piccadilly, try to get into these games more where I can play against different styles of people who are better than me.
Yeah, it makes sense. I hope you do that. You got your new Prius, so it won't cost you too much to drive out there.
Got the 50 miles per gallon. I love it.
I can't imagine you getting better, Chiron, but I look forward to our next interview when you're 6-0.
Yeah, that's another goal too. Try to get to 6-0.
I'm sure. Yeah. What is the top right now like?
I think Ben John's like a 7.4 or 7.3.
Okay.
I think 8.0 is the theoretical highest.
Okay. So, Chiron, the two-hand backhand, it's showing great improvement. At Jesse's event at Fritz Burns Park, when you were playing with Jake, it was really fun to watch that. And you have this incredible scoop dink, which I've been trying to mirror. I've been doing a little bit with the lefty, which is easier for me, but I've been seeing a lot of the top players have that dinking. What else with your two-hand are you using it for?
Yeah, so I've been working on my two-hand, and it's been a little bit weird. I've been trying to figure it out. I need it essentially. I just can't generate the power with one-hand backhand with my grip. So I've been working a lot with trying to figure out, one, how to be, and I think you're seeing it in the pros too, how to be super aggressive dinking with two-hand. And then for me, I think...
Yeah, that's what you're doing now, it seems.
Yeah, and I love dinking two-hand. I love dinking cross-court. Life is easy. I love dinking in general. And now the next thing I'm working on really is, and I saw it in this PPA, when I would get speed up at, I'd get my two-hand on it, but I just wouldn't generate enough power to outpace people, and so their hands were good enough. So actually what I'm working on right now is starting to get more and more core into my swing to generate more and more power, try and get behind people, try and change the direction of the ball a little bit more.
What about like snap, like some snap in there, or is it all abs?
So typically, I kind of avoid big wrist snaps unless I'm the one who's initiating. So even in like a hands battle, I'm not really turning my hands over and snapping it. It's a lot more core and swinging through. It's just too difficult, at least for me right now. I don't know if it's the same for others or the
other
top
grips,
people, but it's too difficult to try and time a two-hand backhand with wrist snap, especially in a hands battle or
hands
speed
battle.
up.
Yeah.
And so I usually keep my wrists relatively consistent. If anything, it's this motion where the face stays consistent and using my core to generate power instead of trying to use my wrists to generate power.
And when you're doing that cross-court dink, that's kind of what you're doing?
Yeah, the cross-court dink, well, there's really two ways to do the cross-court dink. And I call it the men's way and the women's way, because if you watch men's pro and women's pro, they have completely different forms for their two-hand backhand. The women's pro, it's a lot more of they drop the paddle face and they come over and they scrape up, much like what a normal kind of tennis two-hand looks like. They're here and they roll it and they use their wrists. In the men's, you actually see if you watch Connor Garnett or James Ignatowicz, they don't really drop the paddle face nearly as much and use the wrist. They have it already loaded upwards and kind of scoop it with their arms. And what I found is when we limit our wrists like that, when we keep our paddle face up and locked like this and scoop it, you can be far more consistent, because now you don't have to time anything nearly as well. You can take balls off the half ball.
Repetitive, straight.
Exactly.
There's no wrist or anything in it.
Exactly.
Well, that helps me a lot. Yeah.
They do this until they finally get a ball slow enough or easy enough where they can set up properly, and then they do that when they want to initiate, because that's when you can do the most, is when you use your wrists.
What about overheads on two-hand? Have you experimented with that?
Yeah, so I actually rarely ever hit balls overhead with two hands, and that's because I'm so used to volleyball.
Oh, and you have this extra range.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with my grip. Volleyball, a lot of times you'd get set over your left shoulder, the setter would set it over you, and you have to get so used to swinging like this. anything even shoulder high, I rarely ever use a two-hand backhand. I use a one hand and hit it almost like a volleyball overhead.
Yeah. Yeah, same thing in badminton. Mark Boyd played badminton. Like he always he's comfortable with that. I kind of just like switch now with my two hand, pretty comfortable with the left hand. I just with the I like the two hand overhand now. Okay, Chiron, next question. Speeding up off the bounce. Last time we talked, you were very confident that you wanted to solve and make that work, but your colleagues were kind of telling you it's not good to just speed up off the bounce. Is that right?
Well, yeah, I think it's, as you get higher and higher, I think it's just you need to find the right opportunities to speed up off the bounce. And for me, I wasn't confident in my two-hand off the bounce speed up. So for me, it was either I just wasn't speeding up off the bounce, which is bad because you need to be able to create some threat. If your opponents know you're never going to speed up off the bounce, they can just sit with their paddle out in the kitchen.
Yeah,
exactly. You need at least some kind of threat from off the bounce. But unfortunately, because I wasn't confident in mine, I'd either go one way or the other way, or every ball I touched that was way out here behind me, I'd try to just speed up, and then it would just be too slow. So I think my off the bounce speed ups have actually, I still don't do it very often.
But you have been working on figuring out how to keep that as a weapon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that's good, because I've been experimenting with that as well since we chat last, and that's fun. But definitely not, you don't have an advantage necessarily unless you you catch them off guard a little bit, and that's why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Let them know that you can do that, and you will if they're not ready for it.
Yeah, and it's actually pretty interesting looking at the stats. Last time I checked, and last time I talked to someone about it, I think it was around the person who initiates the speed up wins like 48 or 49% of the time. And so the best players who are good at speeding up off the bounce, theirs is around like a little bit over 50. And mine is probably close to the 40%, which is far too low, which is why I need to work on it. Just being able to have that threat and being able to do it is very important, especially in mixed. And I think that's part of why my mixed has gone so down. I've gotten so passive and so comfortable resetting.
Well, you're so good at that, yeah. And it's probably easier when you've got a male on your team that wants to be the big guy, and then you could just play your way that you're comfortable with. Yeah, kind of have to learn how to play both ways, huh? Okay, what is the most recent aha moment in pickleball?
So I actually, it was just yesterday, it was a big moment for me, and I've kind of figured something out. And a while ago, a few months ago, I hurt my wrist. I fell on it, and then it was bugging me for a couple months, and I finally got PT, and it finally got better. But something that I was doing subconsciously that I wasn't even aware of till yesterday is I used to hold with a trigger grip, which is just your index finger goes way above your other finger. So if this is my paddle, my index finger is way up here. And so what happened is when my wrist got hurt, this grip puts a ton of stress down here on your wrist, which is where I was hurt, because you're here and you have all this extension. And so what I was doing to protect myself is dropping more into a hammer grip where my index finger was pretty close. And now there's not as much stress on my wrist, but it also, because you're not up here, you have so much less control of the handle and you're holding so much lower, your actual feel feels a lot worse. It's a lot harder to hold it loose and control it. And so just yesterday, for example, I was playing a round robin. I lost the first 3 games, and I was like, I just, nothing felt right. And then I just was thinking, I didn't used to hold it like this, so I just moved my finger just very slightly, and it actually made just a drastic difference just in comfort level for playing with it. The paddle, playing with that grip, I just felt like I was comfortable playing again.
Comfortable, then also feeling like you have all your power that you need?
So I get more control, just the same amount of power. And I think the biggest thing is I can now, with my finger up here, I'm not restricting how much my wrist can snap now. So I'm here and I can get a lot more wrist snap. I can be a lot more aggressive. And that's really what I was looking for.
But then on resets, it's probably nice having that little control there? Or?
Yeah, so I think resets is probably, I think it helps. For me, a lot of times I almost always two-hand reset. So either two-hand reset.
Now. That's nice that you have that.
Or I actually reset with my finger fully up like this.
Okay.
When it's on the side, and then two-hand.
And you punch back with that finger up like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the counter is with that finger up too. And so for me at least, I think where I find it the most by far is with generating spin, like hitting drives, hitting topspin dinks, hitting out of the air attacks. So much better. You can get so much more snap and you have so much feel over the paddle. Okay.
Yeah, you have a very interesting grip, so thanks for explaining that to me. How is it working at Toscana as their pickleball pro?
I love Toscana. Toscana has treated me super well. I love all the members. Everyone has been super, super nice to me, super awesome. I've really liked a lot of them. I've gotten lunch with quite a few of them. And I think one of the big things that's so great about Toscana and so great about the membership is I think there's a very big feeling with a lot of the people there that a lot of them really want to get better, which is something that really, as a coach, that's all you can really look for. If you find someone who not only really wants to get better, but is willing to learn to get better, that is like all you could ever ask for. And I think that kind of culture, I don't know what instilled it, if it's just who they are, but that's a very big thing at Toscana. And so with a lot of the members, pretty much every member I've talked to. And so to teaching pro, it makes the lessons so much more interesting, so much more exciting.
Yeah.
They're willing to work on things.
Yeah.
They're willing to tell me what they're like not feeling. And so it's also so fun and so fulfilling to see people improve, to see them have a shot that they didn't have 2 months ago, to see them get better than they were at the start of the season, because that's really all I can look for and all I can ask for in anyone. So I've loved it. I think the courts are incredible. They probably have the 2 best courts in the entire desert.
Really? Can you tell me why?
I think it's the space and the lights, I think are...
So it's like one court and then there's a lot of space around it?
So it's like their courts 1 and 2 are really, they're big courts. They have a lot of space between them. They have great lights. They have like they have a fridge with like water and like wet towels, which is
nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But the court itself, the other thing is the poles are the right dimensions. One thing you'll see in a lot of places is the poles are actually a little bit wider than they're supposed to be. And the reason the reason companies actually do this on purpose for country clubs, because when the poles are the right height, the nets that they use look very scrunched up. So instead of having like space between the poles and where the net ends, it gets scrunched up, and apparently that looks bad. So a lot of places intentionally have poles that are too wide, which doesn't matter for most people, but when you're playing high level and you hit the pole on an ATP because it's too wide, kind of sucks a little bit.
For sure. And that's nice to be able to train in that pro PPA court.
Yeah.
Where you have the space for you around the post. Because so many times I see like at Fritz Burns or just pretty much everywhere, there's not that much space there.
Yeah.
So I see that shot missed so much. And it's mostly just because of the available space. Obviously someone really good like yourself can put it away. But I'm sure it's nice for you having that full dynamic range, the way at pickleball's supposed to be played.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever really played on a court where it's like that. That sounds really awesome. That's cool that you got some cold water. I got cold water here. That's been a game changer on ice. And then what'd you say is wet towels?
Yes, they just have like wet.
Like hot or cold? Or?
Cold. So like, cold wet
when
towel.
in the middle of summer?
Yeah, especially when it's 115.
That's nice.
That's a good perk.
I'm really happy for you, Chiron.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing good over there. It sounds like you're doing great.
Yeah, I love it there.
Last interview, 8 months ago, your DUPR was 5.2. Today, it is 5.6. It seems like a small amount of growth, but to me, I'm very impressed by how far you've come in this 8 months, climbing that ladder. Seeing you on the TV was, like I said, quite the moment for me. And like you said, I think your next goal is a 6.0. 6.0 is the next target.
Yeah, that's. I'd like to be 6.0 by the end of the year. That's a very lofty goal, but maybe I can do it, maybe I can't. Or should I say by the end of next year, I'd like to be 6.0.
Okay.
That's one of the goals at least.
Well, it's on camera, so I want to make sure you get there. Okay, that's the last of my professional questions. Next, I would like to extract some strategy from you for myself. And we'll start with what you texted me the other day, just getting started with our coaching. This is our second hangout basically for coaching, which I really need, a player at your level, and I'm really grateful so I can get to that next level. So let's go through what Chiron sent me over text. Everything falls back into understanding patterns, tendencies, and the geometry of the court. Find a pattern of shots that you believe will result in a higher winning percentage over your opponents. The reason you see so much backhand to backhand dinking in pro is because that is a pattern that both teams believe they have an advantage in. Figure out opponents' tendencies. A lot of people have a very telegraphed backhand. Flick, recognizing what that telegraph backhand flick. Recognizing what that startup looks like, and setting up in the right location for a counter is one of the easiest ways to bait attacks. I've definitely been using that one instantly, especially with Ed, his backhand. Not that it still beats me, but at least I have a chance. Understand shot selection based on geometry of the courts, limits the angles they can counter against. So I've thought a lot about this, and we'll just kind of break it down with you if that's okay. Let's start with geometry. How can I get better with the geometry? That's one thing I like about our sport, not golf. It's the same dimensions. So eventually, the more reps you get, the more you pay attention and really focus on this dimension, you start to be able to use this geometry to your advantage, right?
Yeah.
What are some ways that you could grow your knowledge in geometry on the court?
So I think the biggest geometry, there's two really, really big geometry patterns outside of singles. Singles is like all geometry, but in doubles, the two biggest patterns really typically come from speed ups. And it's when you speed up from the line, from your line, whether you're on right side into your forehand or you're on left side into your backhand, when you speed up towards the middle of the court. So when you speed up diagonally across the person in front of you's body, it is very difficult for that person to take that ball and go back the same direction the ball came from. And a lot of people, I think they call it like the rule of the triangle or something.
Yeah, Ed taught me that one.
Yeah, it's very, very likely when someone blocks a ball coming diagonally, the ball won't go back in that exact same spot. Especially if you go across someone's body, all the momentum of the ball is going this way, and if they try to go directly back where it came from, they're now fighting with the sideline. Because you are usually speeding up from the kitchen, if they try to go back at that same angle, if they don't get it straight down, the ball's going to go wide a lot. So the natural tendency and the natural move for most people, and probably the higher effective move, is to block that ball with the momentum either back towards the middle or towards your opponent, towards your partner, I mean. So what that means is when you do these speed ups, cross body or something like that, instead of speeding up and waiting relatively neutral, we know generally the ball is going to kind of funnel towards the middle of the court. So after we do that speed up, we will speed up and then we'll set up, not super heavy, but we'll set up looking to counter, looking for a backhand next if we're speeding up from the right side, or if we speed up two-hand backhand from the left side, we'd speed up and look for the counter with the forehand.
I was working on that last night, yeah. And it's funny, after I learned that triangle, and then I'll go watch pickleball, just watch like a couple of games, you can't unsee it. It's almost like I wish I had AR glasses to see like the trail of the ball. You would just see this triangle occurring pretty frequently.
Exactly. And then the other big pattern happens a lot of times when a hands battle breaks out between two cross-court people. And you see it in mixed all the time. And that's when there's a cross-court paddle going this way. It's the same kind of principle. It's very difficult for someone to take a ball, whether forehand or backhand, and get it behind you when you're attacking cross-court each other. What I mean by that is if I'm left side and they're a left side player and we're hands battling
straight
cross-court.
Or
cross. So the two left side players are started a firefight.
Okay.
It's very difficult for either person to hit a forehand to the outside hip, so to my backhand over here. And the reason is, one, you'd have to actually catch it inside out to get the ball there. Our natural swing is to go across our body, and so it's a lot easier to go either straight back at them, straight down the middle, or at their opponents. It's a lot harder to break your wrist, go inside out, especially in the timing of a hands battle. So what that means is when that hands battle breaks out, because it's so much less effective for them to go here and it's so much harder for them, I don't even really worry about that shot. I'm set up.
Which is good for your grip, too.
Exactly. I'm set up very heavy forehand, and I'm leaned in, and I'm kind of shifting over.
Predicting where that pattern is.
Exactly. And you'll see it a lot of times in mixed, too, where both the guys start shifting over more and more in a hands battle towards the middle of the court to try and, because it's so difficult for the other person to get behind them. And then if they do go behind me, generally it won't be as hard because they have to slow the ball down because they're worried about width. And then in that situation, I'm not going to counter. I'm just going to bring my paddle over and try to reset. So that same kind of pattern where you shift over not only with your paddle, but with your feet as well to get closer to the middle as that breaks out is another very important pattern.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I've been really thinking about this one. And Ed, like I said, Ed taught me that triangle concept, and it's been very, very helpful. I always look for ways to try to break the theory, and I feel like the only way I could comfortably reject that geometry is to reset. Someone like speeds up over here, and I just two-hand reset it back that way, then I could do that. But it's not coming back with velocity.
Exactly. And so really the only way the biggest way this geometry breaks down is if either one, they read the ball and catch it early. So if they can take it early enough that they read it, they can redirect it pretty well.
Oh yeah, and that's what I was doing. Yeah, because I was just like trying to see how I could not. And I already knew it was going over here. I was just trying to like break it.
And you'll actually see that a lot of times in mixed doubles or girls when they get sped up at, they slide and they're so prepared out of the way that they can actually go behind the guy.
Especially that one. That's another good way to break that concept.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm working on. Is
the two hands thing. Definitely usually what's going to make it go the other way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if they're sliding and punching it.
Taking it and hooking that ball behind the person.
Yeah, that is another way I get beat. Okay. All right, next one, Chiron. We got basically 4 sections in that text. Find a pattern of shots that you believe will result in a higher winning percentage over your opponents. The reason you see so much backhand to backhand dinking in pros because that is a pattern that both teams believe they have an advantage in. So are you saying like that's where they'll start, but that's not normally where it ends? They usually end up like adapting.
Yeah.
Probably, right?
Yeah, so the point rarely ever ends, especially in pro, the point rarely ends with a missed dink. So the reason that you see these kind of patterns of like super long mixed forehand to forehand dinking or in men's the backhand to backhand dinking is because both teams in that pattern believe that it's going to break at some point. Someone's going to speed up or someone's going to take a two-hand. Both teams believe this is the highest percentage shot they can hit. They believe if they sit in that pattern long enough, they're going to get either a high enough ball or a slow enough ball or a ball with enough deception that they can speed up and attack, or even maybe lob, or maybe just keep dinking and try to win it. And so what I was meaning by that is one of the things that players really need to do, especially if they're tournament players, it's a little different in rec, is find the pattern against a team that works and just exploit that pattern forever. And what I mean by that is, for example, if I'm playing mixed, our first strategy is almost always drive every third at the girl, speed up every ball at the girl, over and over again, and see if she can handle it. Now, pretty early on, let's say she can. Now, let's say you're down 2 points. Okay, so be it. Now we can change our strategy. But a lot of times, and it does happen a lot, you'll find that that strategy actually works very well. You can, up to all levels, up to 5-0 and so, you can win a lot of points just by banging, by hitting it hard at people, by driving. And if that pattern works, there's no reason to back out of it. So as long as the pattern is working, and especially if you find a pattern that works, you want to keep doing it about as much as you can. Now, every now and then you mix it up just so they can't get too comfortable. But as long as a pattern is working, you typically don't want to stray from it. For example, let's say the pattern is dinking to someone's left foot over and over again. They always let it bounce. They always take it with a backhand and pop it up. Every ball we hit, we're going to go there. And now the other team is going to eventually, hopefully, recognize that, and they're going to adjust. And now that changes the effectiveness of the pattern. Let's say they adjust and he starts just playing back with the two-hand and he starts ripping it. Then that's changed the pattern. So now it's no longer effective for us. So now we look for something else.
Yeah, it's sad, but 3 years into pickleball, I'm just starting to really play that game. It's really fun. And that's how you can't just keep doing the same thing. You have to understand what's going on in real time and then adapt immediately and just kind of keep experimenting as you go along the rest of the match. So I've been liking the best of fives. So you get like 5 games with these people and you have enough time to pay attention and adapt. It's as opposed to, 1 game to 11. In your leagues, you probably play best of 3 almost always.
Yeah, most of the time.
That's helpful.
Yeah, most are best of 3.
I feel like that's, a real game, real match. Okay, figure out opponent's tendencies. This has been another one that's been immediately eye-opening for me. And I guess I've always kind of been doing it with my analytical mind, but think of it like this and understanding this human likes this often and preparing for that and then taking advantage of that pattern. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah, so it's just everyone has certain shots they like. I have certain shots I like, you have certain shots you like.
Yeah.
It's just recognizing relatively quickly what people's favorite shots are and like what their tendency to go for this shot is. And the backhand flick I gave you, that is just an example that's pretty apparent. You can figure it out pretty easily. A lot of times you see most people, when they hit a backhand flick, they telegraph it really heavy. So their normal dink is just like this, then out of nowhere you see their wrist drop all the way down here. And the only spot you can go here is cross like that. A lot of times if someone wants to speed up down the line with a backhand flick. They can't do it here and hook it and go line. They keep their wrist relatively similar, and they go forward and up with their shoulder, less of using their wrist to go up.
Yeah, and you're using this to this telegraph to predict.
Exactly. So when I see someone, let's say my partners are dinking backhand and I'm waiting, and I see someone line up, my partner floats a dink, and I see the person line up with this really heavy wrist bend. In general, I'm going to guess they're going to hit that ball either left shoulder or across my body, and then based on that, I either set up two-hand or I set up with this kind of forehand on the left, already over here predicting that kind of shot. And if they do somehow manage to go behind me, so be it. I might be wrong. Then I'm going to have to change. I might think, okay, now I have to play a little bit more neutral. But a lot of times, just figuring out that tendency is going to help a lot.
Yeah, one of my pickleball friends, Raul, was a boxer, or still is, and he uses that in boxing, I believe. And he was talking to me about this, but he's very good at that thanks to his boxing background. So I think pickleball is so cool how everyone's different backgrounds. Your chess, volleyball, my hockey, it all carries over into this game. But he's very good at those tendencies. It's very frustrating. And then he plays like with a shorter grip, and it's like compressed. He doesn't even really show much. It's all kind of here, and he's almost boxing you. It's really impressive. But today, Chiron, I think we've nailed it. I think it's time for us to get some lunch. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I will mention, I think one more thing about geometry, because it's the final thing, is if you, and typically the geometry is the easiest to understand when you speed up from the lines. From the middle, it's a lot easier for people to go really anywhere. So if you speed up from the middle of the court, a lot of times, because you're going from the middle, they have more angles they can go to. And so one of the bigger things is when you speed up from the line, down the line, what determines where the ball goes, and this is where I find the kind of breakdown to the triangle rule, it almost solely depends on how early they catch the ball. So what I mean by that is if I speed up down the line and someone has a forehand, the farther out in front of them they take it, you can see my paddle naturally is going to angle cross court. The farther behind me it is, the more and more my paddle is going to angle forward. So typically it's going to be when you speed up down the line, how you set up depends on how early they catch the ball. If they catch it really early, you're going to set up to cover the middle. If they set up really late, you're going to cover your line essentially. Because the later they are on the ball, the harder and harder it is to take that ball and curl it back. The easier and easier it gets to just hit it flat forward.
Okay, I'm glad that's on video. When you texted me this, I really broke it down and processed it. But I can't say I understand that one fully, but thank you. Can you explain it one more time, Chiron?
Okay, so all it really is it's just when you speed up down the lines, when you're speeding up at the line, it's the least distance speed up you can do. It's the shortest distance to get the ball to them. So
you're on the right side.
I'm on the right side, I'm speeding up at the person
just down the line.
Exactly, so straight down the line.
Yeah.
So let's assume it's a two-hand backhand. If this person catches it out in front of them, if this is my
defensively, they have a two-hand backhand.
So if this is my two-hand swing, if I catch it out here in front, you see how my paddle is naturally going to come across my body and hit it cross.
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult to catch it out here
and go back this
inside out and go down the line. And so that's the triangle theory holds up. You go down the line. The only place they can really go is back cross, so your partner's ready and you're ready to cover that cross court ball. So let's say now instead you speed up and they are late. Let's say they're coming in a little bit late, the guy was overplaying, they were leaving it open, and they catch the ball back here. When you're back here, now look at what my swing path is. It's a lot more, if this is where the ball is, my swing path is a lot more flat.
Okay.
The ball doesn't sit on my paddle long enough to hit it here and curl it back around unless I really get around it.
Okay.
So what you'll see a lot of times is when that ball is back here, this swing path hits the ball flat back at the line, back at the person, not nearly as much cross court.
Usually not purposely?
It's usually not on purpose. It's just a fact of the matter that when you're here, the only way to get that ball cross court would to be holding your grip like this with your wrist curled. Yeah. And that's, you're not
if it's going in, it's going in kind of right back where it doesn't normally go.
Exactly.
But it's because they hit the ball late.
Exactly. And so that's just one of the things that kind of changes, because typically most speed ups come from the edges of the courts, because that's just where the ball is more often.
Okay. And do you ever see that if they're at the kitchen line and then they react late? But it's usually when there's more time. Not kitchen to kitchen. It's usually where a little bit more space.
Yeah, so it's a lot harder, obviously, to react when you actually have to react to them, when you can't just predict. And so typically,
Yeah.
I actually judge it based on the quality of how good I think my speed up is. So if I hit what I think is like a really good speed up down the line, and I think they're going to be late, I'll stay a little bit more home compared to if I speed it up and like instinctively when I speed up, I'm like, oh, that wasn't very good. I'm instantly set up on my 2A.
Yeah, because if they got a good counter punch, it's probably doing that triangle.
Exactly.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you for explaining that for me. Sorry, I was a little bit slow there. There's a big gap, Chiron. You keep getting ahead of me at the pickleball. That's why I got you hired. But thank you for that. Thanks for your patience. Are you ready for some food?
I am ready.
Okay, let's get some food, Chiron.